Hey everyone, welcome to KubeCon 2022. We are live in Detroit. I got to be honest, it's my first time in Detroit in about a really long time. And it's good to be here. It's good to see the city coming back. It's an amazing, we are in the middle of the show floor here at KubeCon. And it's a pretty big show floor, pretty spread out. You know, again, kudos to the Linux Foundation and CNCF. They've done a good job with mask policy and vaccine checking and spreading out the booths so it's not as dense. And I hope everyone will be safer here than they have been at other shows perhaps. Anyway, I want to introduce you to a new company and the two co-founders that just came out of stealth or emerged. And I want to make sure I've got the name right. It's Kubaya.
Kubia.
And for those who don't know, Kubia is Kubernetes in Hebrew? Cuban in Hebrew. So as you can guess, there's an Israeli connection to the company. Let me introduce you to their two co-founders, Amit Dovrain and Shaked Askayo.
Yeah.
Excellent. Amit is CEO, Shaked is COO. Gentlemen, CTO.
Yeah.
Okay, CEO, CTO. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
We're easily confused.
Yeah, well, he's the one with the t-shirt, he's the one with the sweatshirt. Anyway, so guys, let's dive right into it. Tell us about the company.
Absolutely. As you can hear, there's a lot of noise and a lot of
Yeah, all of a
energy
sudden like a race car went by, but okay.
Well, city,
yeah.
I guess this all adds
I
up.
guess it's the ambiance.
Absolutely. So yeah, Kubia, we're the world's first, or we'd like to think so, advanced virtual assistant for DevOps, okay? Really combining two unique categories who've up until now been completely separate, advanced virtual assistants, conversational AI, typically towards end users and call centers and so forth. And then you have dev tools, right? Service catalogs, IDPs, and so forth. So the ability to essentially merge these two worlds together and bring a brand new experience for end users in the world of self-service DevOps. That's what we're doing.
Self-service DevOps, I love it.
Yeah, I know.
I love it.
I gave you everything you needed, so.
All right, we're going to dive into what your backgrounds are in a second, but let's pick on this a bit.
Let's do it.
So, you know, we're talking like Siri, Alexa, these kinds of artificial, agents that you can talk to. Look, we've all done the phone thing with airlines and whatever, and that could be frustrating. How easy is this really for engineers? Is it something engineers want to do, right? Interested in your, what your feedback has been.
I'd love to answer, but Shaked actually had the privilege of trying this out in his own, eating his own dog food in his previous company. So
Tell us.
I'll let him.
Yeah, so maybe I'll give a little bit of background.
Sure.
I used to be a DevOps engineer for a few years. On later stages, I managed an SRE team actually for a large fintech company. And during this time, my team, myself, experienced a lot of access requests, trending Q&A requests that usually came on a chat interface.
Okay.
Like Slack, a developer needs something, he will approach us on the on-call channel, maybe you an engineer from some earlier stage, he will just approach to him using direct chat. And instead of focusing on innovation, we found ourselves answering to this request all the time, non-stop context switching. So back then I decided to create a chatbot. I connected this chatbot to all of the organizational tools. And just like any workflow automation tool, flash commands.
Yeah.
And basically we reduced the training request by 70%. So
Really?
Yeah. So instead of approaching to us, what the developers will do is to approach to the bots to get what it is that they want. Kubia is a more advanced version of what I just said. It's basically able to extract the intention from the end user, convert it to what we call a workflow, while this workflow is not a traditional workflow which requires all of the context, but if it doesn't get the context that it needs, it will just ask for it. So imagine instead of a workflow in a traditional way, a simple conversation in a chat window. So I'm a developer, I want some configuration change, where are my logs, stuff like that. It could be simple, it could be complex. You will just ask for it, we extract the intention, and if something in your English sentence is missing, we're able to ask the relevant questions to fill the gap. Essentially, we are able to solve this intention and give full auditing capabilities to the DevOps on the other side to know which workflows it should create. So over the time, the organizational knowledge are bounded inside the virtual assistant, and the developers and DevOps are free to work on whatever it is that they want.
Absolutely.
Without getting...
It's a concept we call intent-based operations.
Sure.
Right? The ability to understand the intent and serve it to you in the form of a conversation, so it's democratized across multiple users. Not just necessarily developers, even though that's maybe our audience for today, or operators who are our audience, but really across organizational units. You know, knowledge silos are getting broken down because now everybody can speak the language. Imagine, instead of having everybody need to speak code and low code, as they would in a traditional dev tool, now we're allowing the machines to come down to the world of people and speak their language. That's essentially what we're doing.
I love it. So let's dig in here a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
So you're familiar with WalkMe? Do you guys know WalkMe at all?
Very familiar, yes.
It's friends of mine.
Yeah.
They don't have what you have. They don't have the verbal as far as I know. You can't talk to it.
Yeah.
But they try to do this for people using apps so that, like helping them use an app, how to learn to use an app, how to answer, you got a question, where's this in an app? This is kind of taking that on steroids, right? We're putting it as a verbal.
Specific. It's more domain specific.
And it's right, and it's specific right now, though I assume you have bigger plans. Right now it's really aimed at DevOps, ops folks who want to know, they have a question about what they're working on, the infrastructure or whatever, and this cues them right in there. Solves a lot of issues, because most developers, ops folks, you know, technical people, they don't want to talk to anyone if they don't have to. They're doing their work. They'd much rather do it on their own, get an answer, and go, right? I didn't bother no one bothered me.
Right.
You're hired.
Well, no, I lived it. But on the flip side also, like you said, it makes your job and life easier,
Definitely.
right? Because you're not answering the same stupid, you know, I mean, I think that's a common thing is we all feel like I spend too much time on stupid stuff.
Yeah, it's even more than that, because when somebody asks a question, you solve the issue, you don't have time, you're doing now another context switch to solve someone else's issue, right? And because of this fact, you won't, in most of the times, document this question for the rest of the team to answer quickly, or for the developers on the other side. We give the ability to know which questions the virtual assistant wasn't able to answer, and give this self-service approach to the DevOps to answer these questions.
So then they can go right in.
I know this is less of the technical answer you're looking for, but it's a good analogy to give. What's unique really about what we're doing is we're giving a bi-directional feedback loop for the end users to help educate the system. Really similar to what Waze did to the world of navigations, allowing the end nodes to go and to educate the system. There's a car at the side of the road. Satellite system would have never picked that up. There's a pile-up right in front of us, happened 2 minutes ago. Satellite would then pick that up, but the end nodes can now go ahead, educate the system, craft it, make it more customized to operations on the go.
And the beauty of it is it gets smarter, if you will,
Precisely.
the more you use it.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's even enhanced by the cloud native solutions that the organization has. We're able to feed some kind of a knowledge graph with all of the cloud assets, so you can even ask naive questions about the cloud, like which EC2 instances are open to the internet, or why did my pipeline fail? Because of the fact that we're connected to these tools, we can extract the knowledge out of these tools and just answer it in plain English.
Love it. Now, so where does this live? Is it in Slack? Is there a special interface I got, an app I got to install? How do I integrate that into my work?
Take it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
Hey, he's the rock star here. I'm a fan.
Okay, so essentially, of course, the entry point of the system is to live in chat engines. Imagine Slack, Teams, Mattermost, right? These guys. But not only, because sometimes you need the gateway to the virtual assistant, maybe in your terminal. So we have an interactive command line interface where even from the terminal, while you're programming or DevOpsing, you could just talk with it and ask what it is that you want. You could leverage the AI engine to get what it is that you want, even from the terminal. Besides this fact, we have a front-end interface that the virtual assistant lives there as well, where you could also have a no-code interface to define these workflows that we discussed about. So even if you're less technical, you could leverage the no-code interface to build the conversations that you want, so next time you won't face it again. So
Got
it's
it.
like the
For
gateway.
every persona, there's
Yeah.
an interface.
API.
So it could live really anywhere because it's what's in the back anyway.
It's actually one of that.
Yeah.
You don't have to break your own operational workflows in order to operate
Built
the way
into
you're familiar.
yours.
That's actually how
Got
we
it.
kind of capture more audience.
Let's talk about the depth of what it can do here.
Yeah.
So on one end, it's kind of a workflow knowledge base that we're building. Where's my logs? Your logs are here.
Yeah,
What do I need to do this? Here's what you need to do.
yeah.
What about if I want to kick off something? Right? All right, I want to open up this app with this, setup. Does it actually API into these apps and so there's a difference between telling someone what to do and doing it.
Yeah.
Does it do it or just tell?
Yeah, so we just talked about the Q&A part, but actually inside workflows, you can define what we call actions.
Okay.
Kubernetes has an SDK.
Okay.
We provide SDK for multiple programming languages. You can use the SDK to integrate with cloud solutions, for instance. So let's say you want to create something with Terraform, right? So you can teach the virtual assistant using the SDK to run Terraform. So the context gathering part, which is asking all of the questions in order to fill the gap, after it's done, the virtual assistant will actually take the action and launch this Terraform plan or apply right in place.
Okay.
So it's
And
not
that's
only
all
knowledge.
basically API driven on the back end with
Yeah.
that.
And maybe you mentioned WalkMe, so they're on the application level, we actually on the resource level.
Got it.
Right, so
Yeah.
you could really go down attribute-based access control, for example. That's
Yeah.
something that typically workflow engines don't have the ability to do. So that's just an example.
Yeah, we connect to the identity providers inside the company. So as soon as you send a message to the virtual assistant, it knows your complete identity. So it knows your role in the company. It knows who are your colleagues,
Okay.
what you usually serve. And based on that, we can adjust the experience to you. So if someone from the HR asks for something, and someone from the developing team asking for something, the result could be different.
Love it. All right. We got to give him a little chance to talk a little bit.
definitely.
Yeah,
So
I'm enjoying the conversation.
Oh, no, it's okay. So tell us how, you obviously saw a problem, like many entrepreneurs, right? I'm an entrepreneur myself, right? You see a problem, you say, we need something to fix this. There's got to be a better way. Talk to us now about the creative, how did it come about that you made this company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a second-time entrepreneur, moved to the Bay actually as a result of my previous company. Spent actually the last couple of years at AWS Partner Network, essentially managing the Tier 1 DevOps partnerships and DevSecOps partnerships. All the known players that you probably interviewed here as well. So at the end of the day, knowing exactly what's working, what's not working, and hearing all the cries for help, not trying to, but essentially understanding where things have been broken, especially in the world of self-service, forming a very opinionated approach to what we need to do. And really when Shaked and I joined forces, and he's had the operator pain, he's actually been able to build these. That's where we merge these together. Maybe the last mile of what was different between the approach he's done in the past and what we did here is we took a very close look at what's not working in the world of self-service, and that's actually where democratizing the maintenance of the platforms with the end users. That's kind of that bi-directional feedback loop you described.
Right.
That's one piece. The other piece is conversational AI, the ability to really have multiple personas around the water cooler, so to speak, and speak the same language.
Absolutely.
That's essentially the other piece of it.
All right, let's now jump. You convince them. They want to use it.
Sure.
How do they engage with you?
Well, we do have our website up, kubia.ai,
Dot-
www.ai. Yeah.
But you know they don't see what we see. Well, you can read it on your shirt, but it's KUBIYA.ai.
Correct.
Okay.
We have a free forever tier, by the way. We also have a free trial till the end of the year. People can sign up. Would love to have a discussion, self-service and so forth.
So if you go to kubaya.ai, you can get on this right now.
Absolutely.
So where do you go from here?
Well, hopefully to the moon, right?
And beyond. I mean, so the company's launched. You announced funding, I think, just last week.
Yes, that's correct.
What are plans like for more functionality? Or if you can't talk about it yet, don't.
Well, multi-platform approach, right? So, I mean, our initial entry point has been to the Slack and cloud CSP market, but more and more users are going to add their integrations, their essentially cloud providers to the mix, and it's going to be a richer offering that can be shared between tribal knowledge between different practitioners. That's actually building that cloud ops community that everybody can bring in their own codified tribal knowledge and share it between others. That's a big piece of what we're looking for.
I love it. Good stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, we're about out of time. It goes quick. I apologize, but best of luck on this. Keep us posted. This is the kind of cool stuff, right? Takes it to the next level. Makes everyone's life a little easier.
Sure.
Come back and keep us informed here. Good luck.
Would love.
Again, that's KUBIYA.ai. It's free. It's free to the end of the year. There's free tier levels. Go check them out. Let us know what you think.
And amazing swag.
And good
Amazing.
swag.
Yeah.
Nice shirts. All right. Hey, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back in a second with our next guest here. We are live at KubeCon in Detroit. Stay tuned.
Alan.
Excellent. Hey everyone, we're back here live in Detroit for KubeCon. I think the show floor is not even officially open till
I think
10:30.
10 minutes ago, yeah, so.
No, is it
It's
past
11
10?
o'clock
Oh yeah, it's
already.
11,
Yeah.
so it's open. You know, they did a nice job because you don't realize that the booths are so spread apart
Lots of
that you don't have that density and people getting sick,
It
hopefully.
doesn't feel like you're walking around terribly.
Right, you can feel like it's open. Yeah, good stuff. Anyway, let me introduce you to our segment. Right here we have Patrick Bergstrom. Yes?
Yep,
Okay.
good morning.
Yasmin Rajabi. They are both with Stormforge. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure. So you got to excuse, this is the Motor City.
Yep.
And they got this like race car noise running around here every like
It's
5
the
minutes.
monorail.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
The monorail?
yep,
Okay. I don't know if they actually hear it at home because these mics are actually
Yeah.
pretty good at filtering, but
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah.
Anyway, guys, let's assume they don't know Stormforge. We've never heard of Stormforge. Patrick, what would you tell people? What's Stormforge?
So Stormforge, we specialize in what we kind of consider day two operations for Kubernetes, specifically the optimization side of the house. So you think about anyone that's running a cluster of any size, especially as it gets larger, when you get to the 3, 4, 5,000 namespaces and beyond, it becomes very hard to dial in each individual namespace for the right resource consumption. And that's a huge problem that we've seen at the enterprise now, where we've got these big organizations that are spending millions of dollars on cloud hosting when really they don't need to be. And is leveraging machine learning to essentially predict the correct amount of resources that each namespace needs. And then you can actually turn us on in automatic mode and we'll go through, make every adjustment for you, save you 40 to 50% on your cloud hosting. And more importantly, it reduces the carbon footprint of your compute capacity, which is huge.
That's really huge. Yeah, I read a story in the Times today
Yeah,
of all the countries who promised to reduce their
yeah,
emissions and footprints. I think 25 out of 185 are actually doing it.
Wow.
yeah,
It's miserable,
terrible.
terrible.
Yeah.
And you know, we're all going to pay the price for that. What we could do to do that, it is really
Yeah,
important. You're
absolutely.
right. So we're here at KubeCon, right? Obviously, it's a crazy show. But you guys had some news recently around Stormforge, right?
Yes.
Actually, before we get into that, hold on. I gave them your names. I never
Yeah.
gave like what you do.
Right, yeah, so I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Stormforge.
CTO,
Yep.
okay.
Head
Yasmin?
of product.
Head of product. Okay, good. That's who our people want to talk to. So good
Perfect.
stuff.
Yeah,
All right, let's jump into the news then.
yeah,
So we had a launch a couple weeks ago actually that enables our users to scale way more efficiently. So we're honestly right now the only software that can provide recommendations for both vertical and horizontal scaling. And typically what we hear from our users is when they have the HPA enabled for Kubernetes, it typically scales on CPU, and then if they want to vertically right-size that, if they change the request for CPU, then it can lead to CPU thrashing if you're trying to enable the VPA and the HPA at the same time. And so the challenge that we've heard from our users is, I want to be able to scale horizontally in a resource efficient manner. So I want to do the right sizing vertically, but I don't want to then make that problem exponential across my environment. And so with our latest launch, the machine learning that Patrick talked about, we look at your data and continuously provide you recommendations that will then right-size your application, but also give you the recommendation for when you should scale your HPA so that you're scaling the most resource-efficient manner.
I love it. You know, we started off saying it's about day two Kubernetes, right? And a lot of people hear names or phrases like that, they think they understand
yeah,
what it means. But really, you guys truly are day two.
Yeah.
You're not about how to set up Kubernetes, how to do all that. These are real world, real life issues that people run into once they've set up their Kubernetes infrastructure, and now they want to start optimizing. They want to start scaling horizontally and vertically, but not at one at the expense of the other.
exactly.
One of the things I hear when I talk to people out there is, you know, you guys talk like the whole world's on Kubernetes already, and we're just looking, we're
Yeah.
just starting. I wonder, you know, to a certain extent, we all live in our own bubbles.
Yep.
If you're involved in day 2 Kubernetes, eureka! Everyone you talk to is
on Kubernetes.
Yes.
on Kubernetes and worry about day 2 issues. But real life, what are you seeing out there from companies who come to you?
Yeah.
Are they premature?
I think it really is that day 2 challenge, right? Before I worked at Stormforge, I was a VP of operations at United Health Group, and we used
Sure.
Kubernetes. And the way that we used it was very like managing a massive cluster, and we used automation for
One
everything.
cluster.
Yep, we used automation for everything that we can. It was segmented. We had multiple clusters depending on like the security space you're in and everything.
Okay, I
but-
got you.
Yeah.
That sounds like a disaster. but go ahead.
Right, yeah. But no, but it boils down to, you have all these application teams that are being told, hey, you have to go to Kubernetes, and it's also now on the application team to determine what they need for compute, memory, all their requirements, and they don't know how to use Kubernetes. And so in the end, when I put on like my SRE hat and I'm using Kubernetes as an SRE, I'm going to dial the CPU all the way to the right, dial the memory all the way to the right, so I prevent throttling, I prevent getting killed, and my app's happy as a clam.
And you just pay a fortune.
And then the company pays a fortune. But as an SRE, like I don't care about that, right? But I
Making my SLOs.
Yeah.
You got it.
And I've seen in the last couple years now this whole FinOps idea that's coming about. And Yasmin, I know you've talked to some customers that are really concerned with that. And
Oh, it's a huge problem, a huge issue.
One
yeah,
of the challenges that we're seeing is, to Patrick's point, like the humans are the same. So the people that were working on building applications for like a large e-commerce app, those settings that they'd have to tune, it was like 1 or 2 things. And now they're moving those applications to Kubernetes, and the challenge is, okay, what do I set it to? I'm going to set it to the max that I can because that's what I know. And what we're seeing is that it's a lot of guesswork. Developers are looking like, oh, I'll check out my Grafana dashboard, maybe I'll just double it or something, and that's what I'm going to go with. And then the SREs that have to deal with it are like, what
did you do?
The FinOps team is knocking at the door saying, I have these reports, I see that we're way overspending on cloud costs, but they don't have the tools to actually go fix it. There's a lot of tools out there that'll point out the problem, but actually taking it a step further to give you the configuration that goes out and fixes the problem and does that continuously is a gap that we hear from our users.
Absolutely, I think that's a huge gap because, you're right. FinOps is very good at saying, hey, this instance, is costing us $25,000 a month, right? And we get, based upon resources and what we see being out, we should be able to cut that in half.
yeah,
Okay, go have at it.
Yeah.
Go do it. And it's one thing to even do it, like let's say in a conventional hypervisor environment where we have 15, 20 years of data to play with. In Kubernetes, we don't,
yeah,
for the most part. I mean,
Right.
maybe Google does, maybe, but
yeah.
we don't have that kind of basic knowledge base to say what is the right dial setting.
Well, and it's interesting because every application is different too. Like if you're running .NET, it's going to be
Absolutely.
different from Java, from Go, from Python, from Node. Everything's going to require different configurations.
I agree.
And if you're forcing those engineers to make that trade-off decision of like, hey, you need to cut costs, they're not just going to cut down their CPU because then you're trading off resiliency, and they don't want to be the person that made the change that resulted in some error, some failure. And so that's where really knowing the balance and where, like, I think machine learning is the best solution for that, because then it's based on data. You're deciding what those configurations are and then making those decisions based on the data and what the machine learning comes up with, rather than the guesswork of someone trying to figure out how is this going to impact me. There's way too many parameters and configurations that you have to take into account.
But it's one thing to do it when you have a dozen namespaces, but when you're on the tune of 7,000, 10,000, 12,000 namespaces, like sure, you can throw humans at the problem, but that'll only scale so far.
Scales, right.
Yep.
It's
And
crazy.
even if you spin up a project, it's like maybe you'll look at it once and then you might revisit it again in a year. Whereas with something like machine learning, to Yasmin's point, it's perfect for it because it's taking the guesswork out of it, and we could literally do it every hour on the hour if we wanted to. So
It's great, man.
yeah.
Let's talk about, all right, sounds great, we want to try it. Where should people be on their Kubernetes path before so they don't waste their time? And then once they're there, how do they engage with StormForge?
I think that's really the power of our platform. So we have two products on our platform, and the first one is more of a proactive. So as you're developing your Kubernetes application, you want to deploy it to production, we allow you to run load tests and experiment on what is that right configuration before you deploy. So in that sense, you're being proactive. And then more the day two story that we're like really strong about is once you're there at a large scale, how do you deal with it? So when you're fully deployed, you have Kubernetes up and running, and you're looking at your cloud costs, and you're like, oh, not looking great. That's where it's more of a set it and forget it, because you can trust that the software will come up with the right recommendations, and if you desire, actually go out and deploy those recommendations.
You know, it's early, day one out here,
Yeah.
but it's already a theme I'm hearing, which is, hey, the software is now getting smart enough, trust it.
Yeah.
It will tell you and do the right thing to be the most efficient, to get you the answer you need, to put it out there. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do people engage with StormForge? Where do they go? StormForge.io.
Stormforge.io. Yeah. Yep, and you can find us in booth 91 here at KubeCon.
If you happen to be
Just
right,
across
watching
the
on your
aisle.
phone or something.
Yeah.
And then, is there a free trial? Is there, what?
Yeah,
Yes, if
absolutely.
you're interested in getting started, there's a button on our website. We're happy to reach out, do a trial with you, walk you through kind of the platform, and we have some Kubernetes experts. They're all CK.
I would
certified,
imagine
so-
you do.
Yep. We're happy to kind of diagnose and then work with you on the right path forward.
I love it, man. All right, stormforge.io. They are live here at KubeCon or Cloud Native Con.
Cloud
It's not
Native
all
Con,
KubeCon, you know.
Yeah.
And check them out, or you can just check them out on their website, get a free trial. Patrick, Yasmin, thank you for
Thank you so
joining
much
us.
for
Enjoy
having
the
us.
rest of your week. It's only Wednesday. We're here till
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, it'll be a great week. Thank
Excellent,
you so
man.
much.
Excellent.
meeting you.
It's been a pleasure meeting you. We're going to take a break. We're in Detroit. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey, welcome back. We're at KubeCon here in Detroit, KubeCon 2022, North America. Mitch Ashley, CTO with Techstrong Group and also principal with Techstrong Research. So we've got a great lineup of folks. And speaking of great lineups, I'm joined by Jeff Cobb.
Yes.
Jeff is head of product and with Chronosphere. So I know you got some announcements, so we want to get right to that. But for folks that might not know Chronosphere, tell them about yourself.
So I'm Jeff Cobb. I run product at Chronosphere. Chronosphere is a cloud-native observability company. So we focus on solving observability problems, which is really in the interest of availability and reliability of digital delivery systems. So if you're running a big, very large-scale digital delivery system like DoorDash, you need observability tools to keep that system working, to know whether it's working, to solve problems when problems show up. So that's what we do. That's what cloud native observability is.
So you're making sure we get warm food from DoorDash because they're on top of what's going on, right?
They're making sure you get warm food.
Okay, all right.
Making sure they know
You're
what's
helping
going
them
on.
make
That's
sure.
right.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
probably the right way to say it. Okay, so KubeCon, there's always a lot of good announcements. I know you've got some. Tell us a little bit about what's happening.
Yeah, so we have some new releases that we're announcing here at the show. The problem that we're really focused on is this cloud native observability problem, right? Which is a result of a technology trend toward microservices as a software architecture to build these systems, and DevOps as an organizational approach to deal with them, right? As the world has figured out the best way to build these systems, they realized, oh, we've created something that works better for meeting our business needs, right? We can modify the system faster if we build it this way. If we build it with microservices and we deploy it on top of Kubernetes. We can work with a distributed development team, right? So we've got a lot of little teams in a lot of little places. We can update the system all the time. So we get the business outcomes we want. Problem is, we ended up making a much more complex software architecture as a result. And it's hard to understand it, and it's hard to keep it working. That's where DevOps came from. What everyone realized as they did this for a while is that the skills you need to operate one of these systems turn out to be the same as the skills you need to build it. So you can't do what people used to do. You used to have a development team, and they would build it, and an operations team, and they would run it.
Throw it over the wall.
And
the old days.
And that stopped working, right?
Yeah.
So DevOps is a result of that. So that's a good thing. So now you're getting the outcomes you want because the developers who understand the system are the ones who are keeping it working. The problem is that squeezes them. Now they got twice as many responsibilities as they did before. Now they're not only responsible for building it, but they're keeping it working, they're on call, they're firefighting, and there's a bunch of problems when you're in that situation. So you're a developer, you're on call. One of the side effects of these really big cloud native microservices architectures, they're a lot more complicated. There's a lot more telemetry you need
moving parts, yeah.
to understand what's going on. So if you're on call and you get lucky and the incident is in the part of the system that you work on, you're in good shape because you understand what's going on. If it's somewhere else, you got a problem. There's a monstrous amount of data just totally overwhelming you. Where do you start? You've got the skill to solve the problem, but you don't have the context to figure out how to navigate all of the data that's available to you. So that's what we focus on, and that's what the new release is really optimized for, is helping developers navigate that monstrous amount of data to give them the context to answer the question, where do I start? How do I figure this out? Right? That's what our new feature functionality is focused on.
Excellent. Well, it seems like when we adopt a new technology, new approach, things like that, I mean, just because we can build a cloud native or microservices architecture-based application doesn't mean we know how to care and feed,
That's right.
diagnose and operate. That takes a while. It's kind of like, getting a sports car when you used to drive in a pickup truck. They're different, right? They got four wheels, engines, but
That's
no,
right.
no. They take different kind of care and feeding. And it seems like having that place to start, like help me jump into the right place with the right information, right context, not only helps you with solving whatever issue might be coming up or working on a performance challenge, whatever it might be, but also learning how the system behaves and operates better.
That's right.
Because you're absorbing that too, right? As well as you're kind of diving into a certain area.
Yep, and that's one of the things we hear all the time from people who try to keep these systems working is, I know my part of it, the rest of it is kind of a mystery. There's no one person who has the whole system in their heads, right? So we do a couple things about that. One of the problems is there's just a tremendous amount of data. So you need a lot of raw scale to be able to get all of the raw data to begin with, and Chronosphere does that. Secondly, you need to be able to pick and choose. You need to actually really make sure you're capturing the stuff that's important and shedding the stuff that isn't important. So we have a lot of telemetry control features that are there to help teams make sure that they're only storing and only paying for the telemetry that's really going to help them solve problems. And then the new stuff that we're introducing this week starts with a feature called Collections, which is the contextual focus. It's the thing that when you're on call and an alert goes off, it's the thing that tells you where to start. Instead of, well, there's 250 million metrics in this system and 1,400 dashboards. Here's a pair of tweezers. Where should you start?
There's a needle in there somewhere, right?
It navigates you to the right place. It says, here's what the people who've worked on problems like this before have learned and captured, and it takes you to the right place and orients you so that out of all of that information, you're concentrating on the small subset of the data that's actually going to help you solve the problem.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, is how do you know how to point someone to that place? Is it based on the data itself? Is it based on past experiences, knowledge of Kubernetes, working with other customers? Are there kind of some leading indicators?
Yep, it's based
how does
on
that
both
trigger?
of those things, and it's also based on your own experience solving previous problems and what the people that you work with have captured about the things they learned so that you can take advantage of that. So it's all of those things. That's what our collections feature helps you with.
Okay.
The other stuff that we're adding is we've already got a lot of features that are built to help you control the avalanche of data, right? Turns out a lot of that data is being generated sort of speculatively because we're not really sure what we're going to need and we're crossing our fingers that we're going to have the right stuff. But you're paying for a lot of it that isn't very helpful. So we have a data telemetry control set of features that help you understand what's useful and only keep and pay for that stuff. What we're adding to that is a quota management feature. Because the problem turns out to be the central team, the team that sits in the middle. Usually what we generally see is there's a lot of developers who do this, and there's a small team that helps them and supports them. That small central team, they're responsible for paying the bill for the tools and teaching everybody how to use them. They don't know whether this data point or that data point is important, but they do know this service is important, that service is less important. So they can allocate budget, they can say, you get a quarter of the budget, you get a tenth of the budget, and then delegate down to the local people who work in the teams the decisions about which data to keep and which data not to keep. That's what our quotas feature makes possible.
Manage the quotas. Cool. How about the SRE folks? That's a hot topic. You know, everybody's
for sure.
Either wanting to build that function on their team or getting folks that have done that before, building that out.
Yep.
You know, they also have different needs too, right? Because they may be involved in triage, but they may also be working on performance issues or reliability. You know, things that we've seen happen in the past and what we could do to help the
what we
system.
hear frequently from SREs is very much that I have a broad domain that I care about because I'm doing something like performance optimization. I need to touch lots of areas of the system, and that's hard because it's hard to be an expert in all of them. So they have that same contextualization problem. I understand that I saw performance degradation and now I'm chasing it. I need to get in context. I need to be armed for that area of the system. So I turn to the collection that teaches me about the login service that I'm trying to tune or the checkout service that I'm trying to tune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine. And there's so much we can learn by each time we touch the system too, right? Not just for ourselves, but sharing with others. Talk a little bit about, I mean, it sounds like you're sort of starting cloud native with observability. You're not coming from a log aggregation background, right? I mean,
that's right.
You built product kind of as cloud native.
Yep.
What do you think what is the difference starting at that place rather than maybe someone who's been doing log aggregation for 5 or 10 or more years?
That's exactly right. That Chronosphere was born out of cloud native observability challenges. And what we see is that the difficulties in monitoring and understanding and caring for a system that's built this way out of sometimes thousands of microservices, each of which is small and simple in isolation, but that communicate in a complicated way. The design center for that, it's just different from the way systems used to work. And so tools that were built for a design center of monoliths, where there's a lot of internal complexity and we need to crack the thing open and x-ray it and show you its innards, they don't help as much on microservices environments, where the individual things, they're very simple, they do one thing. It's the way that everything is woven together that makes it complicated. That's what produces the avalanche of telemetry and the need to navigate it and control it.
Very good. Well, so can folks get like a free account or cloud account or down open source, or how do people get a hold of Chronosphere?
Chronosphere is a SaaS app. So the way you interact with it is you go to our website, and there's a path there that will get you to a demo that you can take a look at how the software works. Yep.
Okay, very cool. Well, congratulations on the new release. I also want to mention you have an event, an online learning event, webinar coming up on November 8th. I forget who's on it. I may even be doing it, I'm not sure, but you know, we're all so busy these days. But we'll get a chance to dive into this more and talk about Chronosphere and some of the challenges that people have.
Excellent. Well, we're very much looking forward to that event.
It'll be a lot of fun. Cloud native's a great topic to explore and learn from. So, well, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you stopping by. And as I mentioned, good luck with the show, and kind of keep us up to date. Hope we have you back again soon.
Okay, thanks very much, Mitch.
Jeff Cobb, head of product with Chronosphere. So we'll be right back with another great interview. Jeff, thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.